Hello, Internet. You know what I've noticed? That when I start this sometimes and then I watch this later on, is you're sitting over there making all types of Google faces.
When you're a clown, nobody takes you seriously.
Welcome to the Desert Island Institute of Film. We came here to drink coffee and talk about movies, and we're never out of coffee. For those of you just tuning in, flipping by the station, say, who are these two amazing looking guys?
Strapping young lads.
Yes. I'm Big Paul.
I'm Diet Dr. Paul.
Losers, in other words.
Well, like it, subscribe, do all of those kind of things. Our viewers just blew up last month, and we appreciate, truly, we appreciate that.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
Drop a new episode every single Thursday. This is all about movies. And here's the thing. We've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and we always said there's a ton out there, and we want to make ours one of the best. I've noticed a lot of video podcasts, I don't know that they really say anything. You know what I'm saying?
I think that there's some out there that are definitely what I like to call copy-paste reviewers, where they don't seem to say anything different. It's just sort of like the status quo comes out.
Your job is to report facts, not attack us when we sit here and tell you the truth. The American people, they know. They know when someone's telling them facts, and they know when the media is lying to them. There is no problem. It is safe to go out, period.
Well, and I don't need you to tell me what the movie's about. It's like you could read from IMDb.
Yeah, you could read me the log line and...
Why is it good? What's different about it? What's unique about it? How did you respond to it? What do you think worked well, didn't work well, kind of stuff? And I also, what we do here is that, but we do it from a different perspective, and it's mainly through the age difference.
Dude, what the f***? Why are you f***ing here, man? You're so old. Where's your wife? Go home to your family, dude.
And our hope in this is that you would find a movie that you've never heard of, you would never think about seeing, but you try something new, because that's what it's all. I'm looking for something new or different. I want to watch the same movie over and over and over again.
If I haven't seen it, it's new to me.
I think we go out of our way to avoid doing, or making the obvious pick. So I think more and more now we do a list of the best of this, and we'll say, well, we're not going to put this, this, and this on there, because that's on every list. And why do I need to say that again?
Right.
We all know this movie is, we all know that 2001: A Space Odyssey is a classic sci-fi movie. Now, I'm not going to put it on my list, because it's on every list.
Well, what are we going to talk about today?
The top 7 sci-fi movies ever made.
Was this hard?
Oh yeah, of course, because I think this is, in terms of the genre, you could put pretty much anything in sci-fi. Anything that's fantastic or of a value of fantasy, whether that means outer space or something happening on Earth. So it made it difficult. And there's a lot of, I think, standards in this where I could have just picked 7 movies and put them in order, but it'd be 7 movies that everybody has seen. Yeah. And I don't want to do that. I
think you're going to be shocked at the difference. I mean, I already know you're going to be surprised by my choices, I think, because I think sometimes you might think that they are those are the greatest ever made. Yeah, for some reasons. I mean, this was hard.
Here comes the pitch. Strike 3, and he knew it. Didn't even get the bat off his shoulder. Griffin will almost certainly be sent down to AAA Pawtucket.
This is like being asked to pick your favorite child. I mean, there's just too many of them. You know, it's like, you know, and so my list is probably more notable for the films that aren't on it. Mm-hmm. And so
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I made a list. There's no E.T., Close Encounters, War of the Worlds, Blade Runner, Abyss, Dune, Planet of the Apes, Arrival, Jurassic Park, and I love all of those movies.
Not a single one of those movies is on my list either.
And Avatar, which I didn't like, either of them. I like the originals and the remakes. I love all of the Planet of Apes movies, kind of thing. I think I like all of the Jurassic Park movies, but I didn't put them on my list. Are they great, and are they some of the greatest ever made? Absolutely. But I was looking for things that were fun and rewatchable. And also, we have this thing about movies that change movies. And sometimes, until something is brand new, then, until there was a Superman movie, which really was, You know, when it came out, it was like, you will believe a man can fly. That was their advertising thing. A lot of up to that point, movies, it's like, oh my goodness, this just, now everybody flies. And it's not a big deal. But the first time you do it, it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. First time you saw Jurassic Park, and you saw and it wasn't stop animation with, you know, Harryhausen kind of thing. It's like, wow, those look like real dinosaurs kind of stuff.
I mean, the Jurassic Park T-Rex scene in the rain is still top quality.
It is.
Quatch.
It's amazing. So yeah. So
I
think you might
agree.
find
I will
something.
say something else about sci-fi movies. Is I think sci-fi movies, for me, I want to feel like I'm going on a ride. I want to feel like I'm going on a journey somewhere, whether that's in the mind, in my backyard, in outer space. It needs to be some sort of like event almost. So I think that's a theme. And also I think sci-fi movies that spoon feed you things. Sci-fi is almost like, it's better if you don't get it to begin with. It's better if it's the kind of thing where, like the planetarium, where you lean your seat back and you just let the movie go. You know you're not going to understand it, and you may not understand it fully at the end, but those are the best sci-fi movies. So you go back to 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's kind of like the archetype, I guess. You don't have a flippin' clue what's going on most of that movie. And then at the end, yeah, you still don't really, but there's questions to be answered and then talk about. So,
Do you think sci-fi movies need to be grounded in actual science?
it helps. It helps, but if you don't ground it in the science, then don't bring the science into it.
So in other words, if you just do something that is crazy and outlandish with lots of special effects, but you have some computers around, you have a spaceship around, and it's like, therefore...
Well, I'm saying, but don't address it if you're not going to understand it, right? Like The Martian. Can you imagine The Martian being filmed, but the person that did all that stuff didn't know anything about it? And instead of explaining it to it, we just do an 80s montage of him like digging up some dirt, and in a way it can still be good, but for different reasons.
What about the overlap between horror and sci-fi? Is it more of a horror movie, more of a sci-fi movie, or is it, when does it,
Well,
like
sometimes
Alien,
those-
for example, is that sci-fi or is that horror?
Both.
Okay,
They-
but is it more one than the other?
I mean, I think you would say that if you're going to list a movie, you'd have to put, there's usually like 2 to 3 genre tags on a movie, and the first one's the important one. So I think Alien is a horror movie. I think Aliens is an action movie. Yeah? I think
You heard it
Barbarian
here
is a horror
first.
movie. I think Malevolent is an action movie. But that's not what it's logged as on.
That's brilliant.
What's brilliant?
I mean, Malevolent is an action movie. I mean, I just want to sit here and bask in your knowledge. I'm serious. I never thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense. It's an action movie. But it's like in the same way Bruce Willis gets kind of bloodied up in Die Hard, they really get bloodied up in that. This is why I come. I learned something.
You don't have anywhere to go. It's at your house.
And I have no friends. All right, who wants to start first? I don't know what he's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. We start at 7 and we build to number 1.
I'll go first.
All right, here we go.
This is a long one.
Number 7.
I've tried to put this on other lists, and I've also bought this movie for 2 of my 3 nieces and nephews.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
No. It is a 1988 movie, and I wouldn't say I'm a big anime fan, but I have dabbled in some of it, more of the movies. So it is a 1988 film called Akira by director Katsuhiro Otomo. Okay? Now, this is not the most accessible anime, but I think it's the best. It deals in all the things that make an anime great. Gangs, post-apocalyptic Neo-Tokyo, and you have these biker gangs and this guy who's trying to save his friend from basically like these government institutions. It's very, very post-apocalyptic. It's very crazy. The end battle scene is just amazing. There's basically a giant cyborg baby that's involved. I'll leave it at that for you. But it's fun, it's gory, but just the right amount of gory. It's 1988, so it's got some of the more realistic looking animation as far as anime goes. But it's a good movie, and I think you can't have a sci-fi movie list without at least one cartoon.
Giant cyborg baby.
Yes. At least
haven't-
that's kind of what I thought.
I have not heard those words since the delivery room from your mom.
It's almost like those snakes on the 4th of July where you light them and they grow. Cyborg baby.
Okay. You know what? I think I have in my vast comic book collection. I'm pretty sure I've got a bunch of Akira comic books.
Okay.
But honest to goodness, when you say it, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember a giant cyborg baby or.
I don't know anything about the comic books at all.
Yeah, I'm assuming there's some kind of an overlap.
I know there's a TV show I saw listed on IMDb, but it was like 2016, and I have no clue what it's about.
I don't know if people in my generation, sort of the boomers, whether anime was that. I think I got Vampire Hunter D. It was the first.
That's the first one that I kind of got into that made me
Yeah.
want to go find some more.
And I watched it, and it kind of just went over.
I liked
me.
it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I just. But I know, your niece and nephew, they're just really into. It's like
a lot of young
It's a big
kids
thing.
are One Piece and all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I bought 2 of them this movie for that reason.
Okay. Well, my number 7, and I'm going to just jump right in. Start with a Criterion Collection.
Of course you are.
Okay. But a movie I'm pretty certain you probably have never watched. Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
No, but I've heard of it. You've talked about it before.
Yeah.
It's probably not that
Listen
good.
to how he disparages it right out of the gate.
I didn't disparage it.
Oh yeah, I've heard
I
of
just
it.
didn't. What's the
Yeah.
opposite? I didn't asparage it.
Disparage.
Yeah, but what's the opposite of disparage?
Asparagus.
Asparagus?
Asparagus.
Asparagus? I don't know.
If you watch it, does your urine smell?
I've never seen it.
Let me tell you something. It hits the childhood. I mean, I don't know how many times on this.
What's the year?
1964.
Okay.
I've mentioned the Southern Theater, Columbus, Ohio, so many times. I grew up in that theater. I mean, literally lived, not lived, but we had a business right in next door. I mean, you step out the door of the thing and walk 10 feet and you're in the box office. And it was a grindhouse. Movies, I just love it. And I remember seeing Robinson Crusoe on the Mars. Also in the same time period, do you remember Batman, the TV show? Adam West. He was in it, all right?
Okay.
Not for long. And then there's Mona the monkey kind of thing. But it's essentially takes the fable of Robinson Crusoe on Mars. I mean, you got this, the spaceship and it crashes and there's one survivor left for it. And he has to figure out how to survive. And then he meets Friday kind of stuff. But it's all this science fiction thing. And it's glorious and it's intriguing. How do you solve the problem of breathing? How do you solve the problem of food? Where do you get water at? I mean, it really is kind of a puzzle. And I think it holds up, and the special effects holds up, and
So
the
it's
human
the
story.
Martian just 60 years beforehand.
You could say there wouldn't be a Martian without Robinson Crusoe on Mars. And the fact that it is, don't take my word for it, people at Criterion do not make mistakes. They consider the greatest films worldwide, and the fact that Robinson Crusoe on Mars it's good. It really is, and it was different. And I think a lot of people went to it my age because they thought they were going to see Batman. And spoiler alert, Adam, no, he didn't. He was like in Planet of the Apes. He was one of the ones that didn't last.
He's one of the ones that was in a beard by the second scene.
Yeah.
But I think talk about what makes science fiction, the old the what if scenario, and the on Mars movie, especially more like the 50s and 60s. But that's perfect for it. I agree. All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to move on to my number 6. And now talk about movies that aren't on the list. I did want to say a couple that honorable mentions in here somewhere that I had that I wanted to say. But such as 2001: A Space Odyssey, I didn't put on my list. I didn't put A Clockwork Orange on my list because I saw them on a lot, and I didn't put Blade Runner. But in a film that is similar to Blade Runner to me and those others, very visually striking film, and I think this is a movie that does not get its due. It's a little newer. It's from 2019, and it is called Ad Astra, directed by James Gray, starring Brad Pitt and the Tommy Lee Jones. I don't know why it didn't get it, and in fact, I do believe I heard some reviews that kind of canned it pretty harsh. I think it's an incredibly good movie, and I think especially because it doesn't spoon feed you anything. You just show up, and it's like Brad Pitt's doing his thing, and you're just along for the watch. There's some pretty strikingly scary scenes in this movie that I remember that kind of caught me off guard, but it's visually does the similar thing that you saw with Blade Runner 2047. Very, very like deep colors and these wide screen backdrops and stuff. You see a lot of that in Ad Astra. But just, I think it's more existential. It makes you think about what if. It's basically about this guy who, his dad's been an astronaut his whole life, and he was, I guess, on this mission 30 years ago looking for life in the distant reaches of the universe, and it kind of never came back, and he didn't know what happened. So he's searching for his dad, and his dad is played by Tommy Lee Jones. So, spoiler, if there's an actor playing him, then he's in the movie, which means he finds his dad at some point. And I'll leave you to figure the rest of it out.
That's always the issue with time paradox films kind of thing. I love Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, every movie, I mean, he just can't, I mean, even as he gets older and older, and Brad Pitt, I saw it, I totally agree with you. In fact, it makes me, I always say, oh, I saw it one time, I only saw it one time, I want to see it again.
I want to go back and watch it now,
I do
too.
remember, and I do remember this, as I'm watching it, this connection, thinking about you, this father-son thing, that would you be searching for me? And
Like, I would have turned around at this monkey in space chewing that guy's face off. Like, nope.
yeah,
Can I get a shuttle back down to the moon, please?
yeah.
That's another cool. There's really interesting the idea of like space travel for the average person. They touch on it just a little bit. You get to see some of that. But again, and I think that's what makes sci-fi movies great is they don't spoon feed you. They don't drop you in Blade Runner and tell you what's happening. Yeah, you get the replicant speech at the beginning, but you don't know what this guy's up to. And so that's why I put it on there. Now, I don't think that Ad Astra is a better movie than 2001: A Space Odyssey or A Clockwork Orange, so I'm not saying that, but I think it is comparable, and I think at this point in my life I would watch it before I'd watch those other two just because I've seen them so much.
Good choice. Good choice. I heartily, I agree. Right. My number 6, Invaders from Mars, 1953.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to explain a little something. I had a Citizen Kane moment with this movie.
You didn't like it? You rascal, you.
I was supposed to have seen this this past summer. There's a thing called Monster Bash, and they had, it was in Akron, Ohio. They had at a theater there a sci-fi marathon kind of thing. I had tickets for this whole thing, couldn't wait, got sick, couldn't go. And so what I did was I went and I bought as many of the films as I could, which is important because I bought Invaders of Mars on Blu-ray. I think we lose something when we just stream movies because I am a big fan of the special features. I'm a big fan of director's commentary, and that's the Citizen Kane moment. So I'm not saying that Invaders from Mars is the Citizen Kane of sci-fi, but the experience that I had was the same. I watched Citizen Kane the first time back in the early 80s because I kept hearing, greatest movie ever made, greatest movie ever made, and I watched it on VHS, Blockbuster, and I'm thinking, I don't get it. It wasn't until a decade later that I watched it, a DVD of it with the director's commentary by Roger Ebert, and it blew my mind because what he did was he showed me how to understand what I was watching. It's on the screen. I didn't get it. I didn't see it was like lifting up the hood. And as I did this sense of awe, I was like, oh my goodness, I see now why people say Citizen Kane was the greatest film ever made. The same thing was true with the making of and the features that with Invaders of Mars. Essentially, you've never seen it. It's about a rocket lands, crashes, a little boy sitting out. I mean, every sci-fi movie in the 50s had to have a little boy in it.
And it was always on Mars.
It was a law, I believe. I think it was a federal law.
A boy with a little dog.
Yeah. He looks out the window, sees the crash. Well, the next day his dad goes out to investigate, but the guy comes back.
It's not his
Is
dad.
weird, yeah. And one by one, people start, they go out to this pit where the thing is at. It has the same DNA as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, although it predates it by about 4 or 5 years. But what's fascinating when you listen to it wasn't a commentary, but the making of, it's very Art Nouveau. And when you see it now, you'll see the same set used in 2 different times of the film, dressed slightly different, and it's minimalist. And I start looking at that, thought that is really amazing. It's just how they use hallways and how they use camera angles. You know, it wasn't just sort of like, you know, set up the camera and shoot it. It just, there was some real artistry for this, and it does have this sense of paranoia kind of deal. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's color, beautiful shot, and that's why it's mine.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And that was your number
6.
Number 6.
Yes. Building, crescendoing. Hold on, don't want to finish too soon.
All right, number 5. Now, I wanted to put up, again, there's other movies I wanted to put on here, but this one I just always go back to it, and the more and more I watch it, the more and more I like it. And I think more people need to give it a chance. And it is 1997's Gattaca, directed by Andrew Niccol, who did In Time and The Truman Show, which are also really cool sci-fi movies in their own right. In Time gets hated on really badly too, but that's a cool premise about the time left on Earth is like your currency. So he's really good at that, but this is his first one with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman and Jude Law about a guy, and it's sort of like, again, sort of post-apocalyptic, well, I guess we're not post-apocalyptic, but a dystopian future where you have sort of this break in time where people started to genetically enhance their children and remove, like, you know, heart disease or cancer or things from them. So this family has 2 sons, and one they do it with and one they don't do it with. So one of them is born with like a heart disease, likelihood that he's going to die at like age 30 or so, but he wants to be an astronaut. But you can't be an astronaut because he's got a heart defect, so he's forever doomed to a life of basically just being low blue collar class. So what he does is he finds a guy who is a cripple, who used to be an athlete and would have been able to be an astronaut, but he broke his spine, so he doesn't have the money to fix it, or I guess, I'm not sure. I don't remember how they cover that, because you think being in a wheelchair they'd be able to fix that. I need to go back and watch it. A reason to watch it. But anyway, so he enlists Jude Law to give him urine and blood and hair and teach him how to become him so that he can use his identity and then go to space and live his dream.
Jude Law's urine would make a nice name for a rock band.
A punk band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Making
seeing
their
this.
first album.
Wait
You're
for
in
it.
or you're out. That was a good one.
Oh, click.
Pretty much. But yeah.
No, I remember seeing it, but I don't. I'm really listening to your description, trying to remember my reaction when I saw it. I mean, Ethan Hawke isn't.
Is the lead.
It's something about. I'm just.
Where he met his wife.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his.
It's okay. It depends on him. For me, I think what the best part about it is obviously the sci-fi elements, and it's cool seeing them figure out how to like become the guy. And but there's a murder that happens at his job while he's like getting ready to be like his date to lift off into space is upcoming, and there's a murder, and then it may slow down his leaving Earth. So it's all about like he's got to bide his time and get off Earth to live his dream, but he's got to get out of there before the murder is solved and they find out him, because they're there snooping around and they're finding like blood and hair and skin traces from a man that is low class and shouldn't be working there.
Gotcha.
So they're trying to figure it out. There's a good twist at the end too, but I'll leave that as it is.
Well, good choice. I did not see that. In fact, all of yours, I didn't see coming. You didn't see Invaders from Mars.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
All right. Number 5 for me, Quatermass experiment.
What?
See, that's what I'm talking about. You know, when my thought when I was going to talk about this, I was going to say that people my age, they would say, of course, the Quatermass experiment is on there, also known as the Creeping Unknown, Hammer film kind of thing. But a lot of millennials is like, don't know what that is.
Never heard of it.
It is a somewhat similar.
I'm still not even sure what word you're saying.
Quatermass.
The
Quatermass with a Q.
Quater or quarter?
Quater.
Quater.
See, and that's
Like
the thing. For
equator?
years, I used to call it the Quatermass experience. It's Quatermass.
So, but it's like equator, but without the E.
Yeah.
Quatermass
Right.
experience.
And in actually the way in the thing, the experiment, it was experiment. And I think it was even, it might have been rated X when it first came out. As a lot of the sensibilities for Britain was different. It is, it kind of shares a similar, I think of it in terms of the Doctor Who. That Doctor Who had so many films and TVs and spin-offs kind of thing. The same thing with the Quatermass experiment. 1 and 2 and 3 and then a TV series. It's essentially, it is a rocket, a manned exploration comes down and 2 of the astronauts perish and the last one ain't doing so good. And something's wrong with Brother Man. And gradually he sort of transforms into a monster.
And what year did you say this came out?
This was 1955, right? It is, I think it was one of the first, the 50s was the heyday for science fiction, but a lot of these were B pictures, throwaway, go to the drive-in kind of stuff, and it's the monsters, the paper mache kind of stuff, yeah. This was serious, and the effects weren't bad, and great acting, and moody, and all that kind of stuff. And it's one of those things, I am embarrassed to say that I didn't see it until, I talked about going to Monster Bash, and I didn't make it, and bought a Blu-ray copy of it, and so I watched that, and Invader thought, I see now why people love and have a, black and white, but pretend it's in color.
I've never even heard of it.
Really?
Never heard of it. Nope. Still think you're making it up.
When you start doing the editing for this.
Quaker Mass?
No, these are not Quakers.
Instant Oats?
They're not Amish.
That's where I was getting hung up on. They're not Amish people.
No, and if you just go in and do Quatermass, you will see, you're going to be so embarrassed.
I mean, I believe it. I believe you.
You're going to be like, oh my goodness, this is like Gone with the Wind. Okay, you're next.
All right. Number 4. Now, this one would have been higher on this list a few years ago. It slipped down because it just, I don't hold it as high esteem as some of these others. And maybe in 5 or 6 years it might be a little bit further down the list, but I still think it's a great movie. And that is 2014's Interstellar by Chris Nolan. And obviously there's just a who's who list of Academy Award level actors in this. Matthew McConaughey, Jessica Chastain, Casey Affleck, Timothy Chalamet, Michael Caine, so on and so forth. Anne Hathaway is even in there. Again, you talk about movies that are a journey through sort of time, and you didn't particularly care for this one, but this was a movie that I remember I was sort of choking back tears about the entire film the first time.
I remember you going on and on about it, and I don't know how many times you watched it.
And I really, really, really like that movie, and I think it gets you thinking, and that's the best part about sci-fi movies.
I need to give it a second chance.
Visually, though, it's very, very, I think it's very realistic, which is what it lends itself to, is it does lean into some of the math aspects of it, similar to The Martian. So it's kind of a toss-up between the two, between The Martian or this. Martian is very scientific in its approach and explaining like how to deal with the situation. I think it's just more accessible. So if you don't want to, I think it's just a little easier of a watch to digest. So take that into account if you're not interested in maybe Interstellar, or you've seen it, or vice versa.
I'm going to go back and redo it again because I trust your taste. Most of the time, you turn me on some things, and I know you like it for a whole lot. There's something about...
You didn't particularly like the music either, even though it's Hans Zimmer, and I liked it a lot.
His movies, I loved Oppenheimer. I thought that was like...
I still haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it was like one of the best movies I've seen in the last couple of years, kind of deal. And I love the what's the one with the tattoos all over the body, and
Memento.
Didn't he do that as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're redoing it.
Yeah.
He's redoing it. He's doing it, not somebody else.
Did he not get paid the first time?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
But he doesn't, I don't think he makes bad movies. He may make a film that maybe just you don't like it as much, is kind of the way I sort of feel about him. Like, I didn't really care for Dunkirk all that much. I don't like that one all that much. A lot of people don't particularly care for Inception. So it seems like most people don't like one of his movies, but it's not because it's a bad movie.
Yeah, I didn't like Inception. I liked Dunkirk.
Oh, there you go.
Was nonlinear storytelling.
Tenet is another one some people had an issue with just because of how difficult it is to digest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's, I think he's.
He doesn't spoon feed you. Like
No,
you
he
said.
doesn't. But I think he's a good director, and I think especially if you're like just getting into watching movies and you want to take your steps from Hollywood stuff to independent and more like artsy stuff, you can start with Christopher Nolan, and I think that it's a good like bridge between the two.
Good to know. All right. Well, my number 4, I'm talking to all you millennials out there because I don't think you've seen this.
It's probably in black and white.
It's in black and white. In fact, these last 4, that is like, I mean, I don't know, you really, we did an episode, movies to watch the day you die. And if you knew you were going to die and you didn't have any family you wanted to be with or wanted to be with you, these 4 movies, I'm going to The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Okay.
Have you seen it? Mm-hmm. You have. What did you think of it?
See, a lot of these movies run together for me because it's a lot of a guy on a green screen against a big cat. So I mean, I don't have they just don't get me, or I don't get them like I get movies with color and people.
You really, I thought it was exciting. I saw this movie. Guess where I saw this movie?
Southern Theater.
The Southern Theater, Columbus, Ohio. Go Bucks.
I like The Fly. That's another one that I like that one.
With
The black
Vincent
and white,
Price.
the black and white one.
Oh, I think this is vastly superior
Well,
to that.
Your taste is in your mouth.
A guy just, gets exposed to this cloud. They don't know if it's radioactive dust or whatever, but he gradually starts to shrink.
The effects in it are really good.
His ring falls off his finger and everything, and he goes. I mean, really, the set design and how they do that show him getting smaller and smaller, until the point where he is, sort of the heart of the movie is sort of him battling not so much the cat, but a spider. Now you think about when you're 8 years old, 9 years old, and you're sitting in the theater, and you got a guy that is using a safety pin that has a piece of thread, spooled thread on it, and he is gonna go and there's a mouse trap that's got cheese in it, and he's got to get the cheese out of it so he has something to eat, and then there's water dripping down from a water heater, and that's his source of water, and yet he in his own world he has to master his environment, and there is it looks like a tarantula. I don't know what this guy's got tarantulas doing in his basement.
Yeah.
But the thing that was unusual as a kid to see this is that he just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and you wonder yourself, at what point does it end? Because he starts with a safety pin, or doesn't start, but that's sort of the big, like third act. But then he keeps shrinking to the point where he can walk through the holes of a screen. And you think about how small that is to go out into this vast world kind of stuff.
It's like the Quantumania thing.
And you kind of make it think, it's like, okay, now he's going to be at the atomic level kind of stuff. But it is beautifully done, beautifully acted. It really is. It is one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time. I think Matheson, I can't remember his first name. He writes a lot of science fiction.
Richard?
Richard Matheson,
I
yeah.
don't know where I pulled that from.
Yeah.
Dark recess of my brain, that was
Yeah,
in.
he did Last Man on Earth kind of deal, but he is, I think he was a screenwriter, I don't know that but 1956, the year that it's in the 57, the year after I was born. So you need to do not go to sleep tonight until you've gone back and watch it and get rid of the green screen and a cat kind of thing. Immerse yourself into it. Put on your 9-year-old self.
No, I've seen the movie before. I promise you I've seen the movie before.
It needs to be one of those that you see over and over again.
Yeah.
It needs to be the Shawshank Redemption.
I don't hate it like I hate some of those old movies. I really don't. I don't have a problem with this one. It's just not like a top tier list for me.
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear your number 3 top tier.
All right. Number 3. All right. Now, this might be a little high for some people, but I have a tendency to let nostalgia play too big a part in my life. So let me do this real quick, just so that.
Does this have?
So number 3 for me is going to be 2001's Donnie Darko, directed by Richard Kelly, because I got my nostalgia blinders on, because unfortunately that's just the world that I live in. But it's Donnie Darko.
I don't think you need to apologize for that. I mean,
I'm not apologizing. I just don't know that people would consider it as much a sci-fi movie as it needs to be.
I thought you were going to go with Ninja Turtles. I really, you put those on. I thought, here it comes.
Ninja Turtles,
Secret
no.
of the Ooze.
No. No.
Tell me why you think Donnie Darko is sci-fi.
Because it deals with space travel and time travel. Not space travel, time travel. Mm-hmm.
So, is it a better film than Back to the Future?
Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies of all time. Again, but it's a movie that everybody's seen, so I'm not going to include it. No, it's not better than Back to the
Do you
Future.
think most people your generation has seen Donnie Darko?
My age? My age, yes. People
people
after
my
my
age?
age, no.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think you need to watch it. It really is a riveting movie.
Music, the time period. This is Jake Gyllenhaal. It's where he gets his start in it, but the whole cast is perfect. It's unsettling. It's kind of, I don't know. It was a movie when I was in college. I watched it quite often, and I had to stop watching it just because for whatever. I used to watch that movie in Vanilla Sky all the time, and I had to kind of like stop because it was just getting too old. And it's literally one of my favorite movies of all time. And if I hadn't seen it 3,000 times, it'd probably be higher. But it's a good one, man, and it'll make you think. And again, I think it suffered from a similar fate to like Shawshank Redemption, is that it got good reviews after it wasn't in the theater any longer.
Right.
And Darko wasn't going to be back in the theater, which just wasn't going to happen. So
Make a solemn pledge. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I,
that's my right hand.
Yeah.
I,
your name,
your name,
promise
promise
that I will not watch Donnie Darko
that I will not watch Donnie Darko
again
again until
I've watched Incredible Shrinking Man at least 5 times. Okay. All right. Well, my number 3. No. That was
number 3.
your number 3?
Yeah.
My number 3, 1951's The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay.
It's about as perfect a movie as you can get. 1950. Robert Wise, which we've talked about on here. You got West Side Story, Sound of Music. He did the first Star Trek movie, an A-list director, but it was also a message movie. And it essentially, the Klaatu Barada, Nektu, the robot that is here because we are screwing our world up. And it's all about violence. And they're saying either we need to learn to live peacefully or they're going to destroy us. And it just is really, the acting is great. It is black and white. Now they redid it.
I actually kind of like the remake.
With
It's not
Keanu
it's not a
Reeves.
great movie, but I kind of like Keanu in it. I don't like Jennifer Connelly and young Will Smith. Not a fan of that. That just seems ham-fisted. But I like Keanu Reeves in it.
Yeah. Have you seen the original?
I have.
And you still like it better than?
No.
Okay. Well,
No, it's not better than the original. No.
yeah. But it's not something you wouldn't see. Like, do you own it?
I don't know either of them.
Do you own Donnie Darko?
No, I don't.
Well, of course, your generation doesn't own physical media anymore.
I do.
You have. Well, I know you do. But,
I do.
but-
I think I owned it at one point.
Yeah.
But I don't
It's
anymore.
anyway, for those of you younger folks, I know you get turned off by black and white movies and they're slow moving, but it is, it really does unfoil. And actually, it was in the Monster Bash, which I already owned a copy of this. It's not Criterion Collection, but I'm surprised that it's not, because
Yeah.
it is a very influential sci-fi movie. So, and it is a lot of those movies back then in the message, and you started to see films around issues around like nuclear war or racism or sexism, and I think that science fiction sort of helps. It's a good platform for dealing with social issues because it uses it as metaphors. So
I agree.
okay, what do you got?
All right, number 2. Now this could have been number 1. Number 2. 1999's The Matrix. I think that that's the bee's knees. Directed by, they credit the Wachowski brothers. I understand that they go by Lily and Lana Wachowski now. That's just what IMDb says. But this is not the second. I'm not talking about that crap. I'm talking about just The Matrix, just the first one. That's a perfect movie. Perfect time period too. I love that that's when it was made. That's one of the first DVDs that I remember watching special features on and watching them do the helicopter scene. And they used to advertise the crap out of the special features on that for special features because they had the 360-degree camera things and stuff. But what a monumental movie. What a copied movie. I mean, there's so many like big scenes in it they're so memorable. The rooftop scene, the bullet dodging scene. There's the fight against Morpheus when they're doing their ninja thing. I mean, it's just a good movie. It's perfect.
I absolutely agree with you. And I didn't put it on my list because I see it as being more influential because of its technology and not so much its story. The whole bullet dodging scene, if you watch the making of featurettes that goes with that, how they did it and how they set up the cameras in staggered fashion, and that has become so commonplace. I mean, they created or utilized the technology that's been repeated over and over and over again. It really was the first time I saw Keanu Reeves on the screen, and as more than a throwaway kind of.
Except for I liked him in Point Break and the movie with the Christmas movie he's in.
I like the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
They're okay. Yeah, they're okay. I totally prefer Point Break though.
Yeah, I need to go back and rewatch that. So
Swayze.
Yeah, but I think from a technological standpoint, from an acting standpoint, and it did have a great riveting story. But I'm with you on that. But
just so many interesting ideas that you've never seen them before. The phone call getting sucked in through that, and the whole Zion thing, and the machines, and the idea of what is the Matrix. I remember I was in 7th or 8th grade or however young, and the movie had been on DVD by this point. And I remember someone saying they'd watched The Matrix with their brother, and I was like, what's The Matrix about? And they're like, you just don't ask that question. You can't describe what The Matrix is. And I remember like laughing at that back then. But yeah, it's just.
You want to know the perfect double feature? Ask me what the perfect.
What's the perfect double feature?
I'm glad you asked. Matrix and They Live.
That'd be a good one. I could do that.
Some similar. They're not brothers, but they're first cousins.
Yeah,
kind of.
I like They Live a lot. That was on the initial list of about 1,000 movies.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead with my number 2, and I had to do it, and it's Star Wars.
Okay.
And I did it. I like Star Wars. I have grown to distance myself from Star Wars.
You and me both. You and me both.
And it's really because it is just so overdone. I'm tired of the spin-offs and this and that.
Bastardized all of my favorite childhood characters.
Yeah.
Why do you got to do that?
Jar Jar Binks?
No. Surprised that's what they didn't lead with. But how did they screw up Obi-Wan Kenobi? Obi-Wan Kenobi is Ewan McGregor. They flippin' did it because I can't watch it. I have not finished Obi-Wan. I didn't finish The Mandalorian. I didn't finish Boba Fett. I won't even watch that Ahsoka Tano crap. I'm over it. It's gone to me.
Yeah, there's something about going to a restaurant and eating a good meal. And okay, now I'm going to get up and leave, and I'm just going to remember that meal. But why do you have to? Okay, it's again, and it's just, and I know it's money, and I know there are people that are rampant fans. It's the universe that Star Wars created.
I mean, and I get it.
Yeah.
I like some of the movies aren't bad. I really liked Rogue One. I think that might be my favorite Star Wars movie is the Rogue One movie because it's so anti-Star Wars. But even The Last Jedi I think was garbage. But even the other one, they're not bad. But it's the first 3 that I think people are still holding on to those as though everything since then's been good.
I would have stopped after the first 3. I mean, if it were more made.
In my brain, that's kind of where they do
Yeah.
stop.
The thing that reason I put it on here, because I saw it in the theater when it first came out, and it was an event. Science fiction it was pretty much a dead genre at that point. I mean, it was like Westerns, and nobody was making Westerns or going to Westerns. And I remember Time magazine, the cover story was Star Wars. And it's like, oh my goodness, it was just so groundbreaking. And the experience of being in the theater, it broke so many of the rules of space movies, because you'd see this ship, and as it moved over you, you could see the detail on it, and the massive, and the sound design was just sort of wonderful, and the world and the characters, and it said something, and just it really was just magnificent. I understand why it has the influence that it has. I just wish that we didn't love it so much.
Well, I wish
think
we
we're
loved
killing
it. I actually wish we loved it more and left it to flip alone. Why
Well,
do we have to keep doing that?
I agree.
Why? I do hear that, what's his name? He played Eric Foreman on that 70s show. I forget his real name. But he has apparently taken the original, or the first three, number 1, number 2, number 3, when Anakin's a kid, and edited them together, removing Jar Jar Binks completely, removing a whole bunch of other storylines, and basically put it into like one movie and showed it to a bunch of his friends in Hollywood, and they say it's amazing. I would love to be able to get my hands on a copy to watch.
I tried. I've got the Disney Channel. I tried to go back and start with all of them, watch them all, and once I get for the first 3, I just can't. I mean,
I can skip the pod racing one and
That's
do 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But number 1 ain't happening. Not now, not never.
All
So, my number 1. I usually at everything I talked through yours a lot.
that's okay.
All right, number 1.
I can't wait.
I lied when I said one of the movies you mentioned earlier wasn't on my list, because it technically is. I think it's a travesty that this film did not win Best Picture in 2017, and I want the smoke with anybody who wants to argue against me that it wasn't the best movie that came out that year. And it is War for Planet of the Apes, directed by Matt Reeves. That was the best movie to come out that year, and there's really no real actors in it, but that's what makes it a best sci-fi movie. Is because it's just so fantastical. If you describe this plot of this film to someone that didn't understand what sci-fi movies were, they would be laughing. They would just laugh at you. So the baby and the gorilla and the orangutan are going to ride horses into Woody Harrelson's army, who are going to fight them. Wait, what? But it deals with all sorts of cool issues, which is what I think sci-fi movies did. You talk about going from the dead sci-fi genre and breathing life back into it. It was by making them more than just pretty to look at. It was putting something underneath it, a theme to go with, and what better theme than Planet of the Apes? And I think this is the best Planet of the Apes movie, personally.
Operators are standing by. The helpline.
The helpline, yeah.
I liked the movie a lot. I like the institution of Planet of the Apes.
Even the Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, even that one I didn't mind, and I mean, the first 5, which I have on a box set, I really think they were groundbreaking. I know a lot of people think, after a while it was a money grab, but I see this theme about race and power and that kind of stuff that sort of played out towards the end of the series. My most fond memories was going to the drive-in movie, Columbus, Ohio, and they had someone drive in and they showed all 5 films, and if you stayed until the end, they handed out free bananas, kind of thing. I mean, that's just, we don't do that kind of stuff. No. I love it. I do love it, and I think it's one of the better ones. I didn't particularly enjoy the James Franco kind of, like some of the.
That's the first one.
I know.
Yeah.
But
Rise
I do.
of Planet of the Apes, I believe is what they call it.
Yeah, but I do, and I think the stop action motion capture kind of stuff, the work. Circus, is that his name?
Andy Serkis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is brilliant. I mean, he really is. And everything that I've ever seen him do, whether he was doing motion capture or just he was actually in his skin.
I'll tell you this. I think that, and this would be a tough one to do. If we're going to do the Mount Rushmore of movies in general, you could make a case for Andy Serkis being on there just for the motion cap stuff that he has kind of start and popularized from Lord of the Rings on. It's a huge piece of films now.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I'd like to see more of him, and he's a good actor.
He does a lot of directing now too. He did most of the B team directing for The Hobbit. and especially since then. So yeah, he does a little bit of everything.
Okay. Well, it's a good choice. My number one, and it has to be, which is 2001: Space Odyssey. And I know I have to.
I said why it was the perfect one already. Though,
Well,
so.
it is, for those of you that have never seen it, you have to understand when it came out, what a revelation it was. This was a movie that you would go to, and after it was over, you say, I do not know what I just watched. And you would go, you go out to eat, go to the Pancake House, something like that, and you would sit and argue and debate. What was that? It is the grandeur of it, the music, the set design. It is, talk about when Star Wars, Star Wars and that, having them together because they share some of that same experiential DNA. When the spaceship sort of goes over top of you in Star Wars, it's comparable to what it was like for the circular, when the astronauts that are jogging on the circular. It's like, how did they do that? It
There's
was
tons
just
of
amazing.
sets like
The set piece that involves HAL, the computer, which everybody then is like, okay, it's IBM or that kind of stuff. And hello, Dave, perfect kind of stuff. And the monolith. I mean, it just really, I still have no idea what that movie is about, but it is an event to see. Kubrick, it was the film for me that introduced me to him, and it is. I would encourage you millennials, younger people, to really get to do it and put your phone down and really pay attention to it. It will transform you to another place and time. It really is. It's got a great payoff. And then somebody please explain it to me.
Unfortunately, just like A Clockwork Orange, which I think is kind of 1A and 1B for me in sci-fi movies, but they both aren't all that easy to digest. It's a difficult movie. I think in terms of like, if you were to grade movies on how easy it is to watch, that's an expert level film to watch. So it may not be the most easy thing for you to watch if you're not big into film, but I think it's something eventually everybody should try it out, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's this episode of the Desert Island Institute of Film, or whatever we're calling it. And was it good for you?
Oh, yes.
It was good for me. You realize you still have the nostalgia glasses on.
I do.
You gonna wear those from every episode from now on?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you put a lot of no cost is overlooked to bring you fine film analytics here. So we appreciate you. Like I said before, what do you call it? The
Contact
subscribe.
Screen? Oh yeah.
Notify, all of that kind of stuff.
Ring the bell.
Tell your mama, tell your daddy. We invite people. We say this every week. We invite people to come on the show. And so if you would like to do this, let us know what it is. There's an address on the screen, and just send us something. Watch the first episode, and every episode since then, you'll understand what I mean. But we will see you at the movies, yo.
Luke. Oh, Luke.
It's a go.
Obi-Wan. There's good in him. I know there's still.
Lord Vader, can you hear me?
Yes, Master. Where is Padme? Is she safe? Is she all right?
It seems in your anger, you killed her.
I couldn't have. She was alive. I felt it.